Back with the wall tactics with another challenging orc matchup. Let's talk about the Stormlance Detachment. Let's bring it to the beakies.
Let's go.
Whoa! All right, you gets. These are key rules that affect the wall. David, you want to start with the army rule?
Yeah, so the army-wide rule is advance in charge, fall back in charge for everyone in the army. So wall the entire game.
Yeah, this is something to keep in mind when you're considering your orc durable units / the ones that are kind of glass cannons. You got to understand that if that glass cannon doesn't one-shot it, that's going to fall back and clear it out if it doesn't just directly kill it then. Also, the units that you're using to maybe delay, you got to understand that they're going to fall back and continue to move up the board if you don't place your model correctly. Very important as an orc player to understand what happens when you face another melee army compared to someone who's just trying to shoot you off the board. I think that's where people mess up with world eaters too. So let's talk about some of their enhancements, which I don't think are too devastating, to be honest, right?
No, not really.
So first enhancement is count battle round +1 for reserves, mounted units only. So you get to bring a unit in +1 earlier. Doesn't really make sense for all the other useful kind of data sheets and abilities. So just delays their, getting up the board sooner. It's not worth it, in my opinion. But
it's a secondary option when you have some extra points left over. You'll probably see it on a list.
Yeah, knowing what it does.
This is probably the best one out of all of them.
I think so.
Melee weapons for the bear get +1 strength and +1 AP. And on the charge, it becomes +2 strength or -2 additional AP. And it's only for a mounted unit only.
Yeah, and that's the only way that they're going to get what it pretty much beats the character that isn't already a named epic data sheet, right?
Right. So you'll be looking at strength 9, strength 10 Thunderhammer with AP 3, AP 4.
Strength 10 is that threshold that orcs don't like either because we're, our T5 is something we value. But other than that, let's move to the next one. Reroll advance rolls when leading a unit. How do you feel about
that? It's situational, depending. It sucks when you roll that 1 for the advance and your rule is advance in charge.
But going into orcs, I don't think there's going to be something orcs really care to pay attention to. We're not worried about that. If they fail a charge, they fail a charge. We might be counter-charging them most of the time anyways. And their last enhancement, fall back and shoot. I think that's more or less good for what? Actions, I would say. Yeah. If a unit's deteriorated, that unit can then fall back and commit an action for them. So keep that in mind if you're wondering, hey, I could kill this unit. It's not a threat anymore. Most likely, if they have that enhancement, they're looking to just fall back and score points anyways. But still, not too devastating as an orc player that we're worried about. But the strats, on the other hand, are some to pay attention to, are they not?
Yes, these are some great strats, and as you can see, most of them only cost 1 CP.
Yeah, Armor of Contempt is super obvious that it's going to be on every detachment, but keep in mind as an orc player, we always kind of have to have a couple data sheets that are ready to counter that, right? We all know which ones I like. The Scabble. But in this detachment, there's not a lot of 2-up armor saves, are there?
No, unless you're talking about dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
You see a few dreadnoughts plugged in here and there.
Yeah, but stuff that's getting stuck in combat, not too many. So that's kind of a good plus for us, right? Most of the time. Now this strat, reactive move within 6 when enemy ends within 9. My goodness. Right? As orcs, we hate that because the one thing I actually like when you're looking at this matchup is, yes, they can take up the lanes. They're fast. They have big bases, though, and orcs have a lot of infantry that like to wall through the walls. Well, this messes us up because we don't have optimal movement in this case. And last thing we want dudes to do is to move further away from us. So this is something where you as an orc player need to keep in mind to use. Here we go. A very underutilized strat as an orc player for the most part. And those who have follow me lads will actually appreciate that.
Right. And this is a case where having the Space Marine player having this in their pocket, they might not fully utilize that consolidation move because they do have, maybe they are at the edge of your charge for you coming in and they want to get out of charge or just make the charge harder.
Yeah, it's problematic, guys. Or people want to move closer to something that wants to heroic and assist them in combat as well. That's something you need to pay attention to. If he can move closer to another Thunderwolf cavalry for some reason, if there's enough room, or a dreadnought, something that wants to get into combat.
They could protect a dreadnought. Maybe.
Exactly, protect us. Exactly, stop something from actually making off a charge somewhere else and getting in the way, using their bases to actually their advantage by move blocking you and your punchy units. So really, that strat is going to be. Gonna challenge you as an orc player as a whole, to think preemptively and have multiple avenues of attack to understand that you might need to reallocate who's charging where, because you really don't know where that strat's going to go off. Sometimes a good player is in a, they're going to have multiple Thunderwolf cavalry units. You're going to have multiple times to choose to use this strat. So very, very important when you're thinking about that. Now, the next strat, this is only important if you really into flash gets. Mind you, David, sir.
Yeah, so there's only in the shooting phase only, -1 to hit, -1 to wound for mounted unit only. Oh, and fly vehicles, actually. So until we get a codex, it's only really going to affect the flash gets here.
Yeah, the flash gets are something that's on so many different competitive lists, but it is finding its way, getting weaned off sometimes because all the armor of contempt, all the 2-up armor saves, the easy benefit that there is to cover. Now we're coming in with some detachments that are saying you're -1 to hit, -1 to wound. Now the flash gets are hitting on 6s and wounding on 5s. My goodness. If you were worried about your flash gets before, now even more worried about them. Thunderwolf are huge, so they might not get cover, but they still could hypothetically. So, as I would say for the most part, this detachment is thinking about being shot off the table anyways when they're considering armies that are beating them. So this is something that players are going to always be looking to use regardless. So as soon as they see your flash gets on the table, they're going to know that's the unit that I'm looking out for. They're going to keep that strat in their pocket for that. So lethal, pop in the ammo run's the only time you're going to get that ability off. If you got flash gets on your list, you're going to need to get them off optimally that one turn that you can, because after that they might not get any more use unless you're just trying to draw CP, I guess, right?
Right. Expected this strat to be used all the time because you're going to be looking at 6 to 8 man Thunderwolf Cav units, and you're not hiding that.
Yeah,
the player's expecting to get shot,
and because the player is expecting to get shot all the time, and now he's not going into a shooty army for the most part, that's where the reactive move is going to be used almost every turn now, because that becomes their version of countering our detachment, right? They're like, oh, you just want to fight? Well, I just want to move away from you or block you, which I think is a huge deal. Really, players will start to realize that's a big deal. Our best players will take advantage of that all over the table. Another one right here that I argued wasn't my favorite, but mounted units advance 9, non-walkers advance 6. This is the only strat that's 2 CP. I don't see them using this too often unless they make a mistake.
Right. Like you said, it's 2 CP, fairly costly, and you're not going to have that much CP to use this one every turn. And it's really if they make a mistake, or if they're trying to get around a screen, they just need the extra movement, or even terrain, because moving those big bases around terrain is going to be difficult. So
it depends if people are playing on GW or are you playing on WTC, right? I think European players, their tables are a bit more dense. They'll have their trees, they'll have craters. They'll take that into consideration compared to a GW terrain where it's kind of big lanes sometimes, right? And objectives are in the middle. So your meta will also determine how often you're seeing these giant big bricks running around and when the strat's being used or not. And last but certainly not least, re-roll, charge roll, gain Lance.
So this version of Lance isn't my favorite.
Okay, why is that? Elaborate.
Well, you
take advantage.
You have to use it in the charge phase. So there's still a chance you could fail the charge even with a reroll, and then it does nothing for you.
Okay.
Also, just comparing to the Gladius Task Force Lance, it gives you an additional AP in the appropriate doctrine, which is very nice, especially considering you have a lot of -1 AP with Thunderwolves.
Yeah. So they suffer from a similar thing that Orks do, but they do have counters with it with some characters, right? And some other abilities we'll get into here today. Right?
Yes.
So that's something to keep in mind, though. Know that rule, because if you're playing against someone and they just say they have Lance, they're not declaring it in the charge, they're not playing the rule correctly.
There's just one more strat that we glanced over. Also situational. Units gain assault keyword.
Oh, yes.
And if they already have it, they get sustain 1. So this would be mostly if you're trying to perform an action, you're not really going to do it for the
with a devastated unit, maybe they're going to go try to support an action, right? A unit that already kind of lost a fight, stuff like that. We know they can fall back. This is when they, so they're going to, that's what I like about this detachment if I'm playing them, but I don't like if I'm a player that's going into melee with them. These leftover units have options between strats and abilities to keep bothering you for the rest of the game.
Right.
And then they become MSU skirmishing unit. One Thunderwolf cavalry running into a Stormboy unit is actually pretty problematic for us. So that's something you should keep in mind as an Orc player too. Try to outright kill these units if you can. Now, gets to look out for. Some of these copy and paste because every detachment wants to bring a Gladiator Lancer, right?
Right.
But some of these other units are going to have to be keep in mind as too if you're going into this detachment and these uncommon units on this list, right? So Gladiator Lancer, obvious. There's me Gladiator Reaper sometimes as well. Less common because they're going to have volume of punches anyways. Ballistus, just because it's common in the Leviathan Dreadnought box, I don't think that it's anywhere close to as good an optimal as a Lancer. So if you see a Ballistus, be happy that it's not a big Lancer. Thunderwolf Cavalry. I think this is carrying this detachment.
Yes, it's the Thunderwolf Cavalry detachment itself. They just have a volume of attacks. They got 4 attacks with the guy on top. Strength 5 -1 on the charge. That damage 1 turns to damage 2. And then you get 3 more attacks hitting on 4s. Strength 5 -1, also damage 2 on the charge with the mount itself. So it's 7 attacks total.
And that's not even talking about the named characters that are actually going to enhance these abilities that we're going to get to. Keep all that in mind, that we're going to come with the combinations as well. We're just going over the data sheets first. And then, like I said, Space Wolf named characters. These are going to be important for when you start commenting about the combinations. Fenrisian Wolves.
Oh, great chaff unit. 30 points. They move 10 inches. They're beasts, so they get to move through terrain. They're just a great chaff unit option.
Yes, they are. And of course, Imperial Henchmen, allies, because they're going to have such these brick units going up, chances are they're going to pay for these. Copy and paste. Whirlwinds, because they understand, the Place Marine player understands, that staging units are problematic and their movement ability is problematic for this detachment. Therefore, Whirlwinds are actually there to soften the counter-charging units or to stop you from scoring because they know that they're going to have a hard time getting to you. So Whirlwinds become very important in this list. I don't think anybody's going to bring less than 2. I mean, right?
Right. Well, I don't think 1's efficient enough to actually do anything.
True.
You know,
True.
You're hitting on 4s.
So if they bring 1, be glad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they bring one if they bring lead. Be glad. So Inceptors, copy and paste, plasma, assault bolters, whatever. I mean, sorry, bolters. Regardless, they're both pretty good. Big units are more for damage, small units for scoring. I definitely advise that you kill those units when you get the chance. That's what they're looking to score with when they can. The other stuff's most for damage. Inceptors are going to be their scoring potential units. They're going to put most likely 3 on their list. If not, 1's just a straight brick for damage. And then Outriders, that was just obvious detachment, what they're going for. Data sheet you're going for in this detachment. If you're using this core Space Marine, casual players, people making new collections, understand that that's what they're going to bring. It's just a less effective version of a Thunderwolf Cavalry.
You're right.
And then Chaplains.
Yeah, Chaplains, they're great too. They give you +1 to wound and melee, so that strength 5 isn't as detrimental if you're going to the higher toughness models like Maganobs.
Yeah. And then now units that you want to get stuck in. Now, Beast Snagga Boys. Most people are like, yeah, I know for the dev. No. I'm talking about volume of attacks on the wall with the Beast Snagga Boys. That means even Bricks of Boys, which some people are bringing with the Pain Boss, or the Pain Boss Boy itself, running up during the wall with the Strength 6 makes a huge difference. These guys are looking to ride their invulns. The fact that they have a weird ablated wounds. They have 4 wounds a pop. So 3 damage weapons are not optimal into them either. They're glad about that. Sometimes they know it's going to be a low volume of attacks. 3 damage attacks. They're going to look to ride that invul. And sometimes they just save it. You don't kill enough of them. Volume matters into these kind of units that are oddly durable with the odd ablative wounds. Mass volume damage 1 and getting it in there. And they're much cheaper. Beast Snagga Boys are much cheaper in that case. Plus, we talked about Orc infantry is better for staging when the Thunderwolf Cavs are going to be kind of standing open in the lanes. So they'll be there for the charge most of the time. Gaz is acting more as a counter charge here as he's Kool-Aid manning through a little. No rapid ingress sometimes here. You're just going to let him know I'm staging here. I'm going to here we go when it's time to go, even if you're trying to move away from me, and I'm going to get that charge off, especially if you're leaving something on the middle objective to try to play the game. Because there are times where these Thunderwolf cavalry units are just going to try to stat check you because they still have to hold objectives. You still have to play the game. The person's going to ride the invul. He's going to ride the toughness. He's going to ride the weird wounds. And that's where Gas comes in and says, hey, I got dev. I got flat damage 4. I'm wounding you on 2s. Oops. But again, you run into the fact that they can ride the 4-up invul and kill you because they do have the profile to kill Gas as well. Now, Maz. Maz is acting, as always, as a distraction artifact sometimes, right? But in this case, not only does he act as a distraction artifact or a lane move blocker because he can actually absorb some of these charges and delay some of their advances up to the middle and to your table up to your side of the board, but he moderately fights well, and he fights moderately well into them. The fact that his mount is flat damage 4, the fact that his mount is at least strength 7, so it's gonna be wounding them on 3s. During the WAAAGH, he will be wounding them on 3s. It makes it so he's not worried about getting as caught up with them compared to if a unit has a 2-up base armor save and he's wounding them on 5s or something like that. Or, there's some weird time that he got stuck in a combat with a Beast of Nurgle. And because he couldn't just one-shot it, the Beast of Nurgle just eroded him. In this case, he's not that worried about it, as long as the unit doesn't have with its full potential. Because don't be twisted. A Thunderwolf Cavalry at full potential can still one-shot Maz if you allow him. But that's where the bikers come into play here. You can move the bikers up as well, and you're going to be taking up the lane so that not enough Thunderwolf Cavalry can get into someone like Maz or someone like Squighog Boys. That's where placement and optimizing our movement as well. We're not as fast, but we're still fast. We've got some big bases. You're going to use that to your advantage. Oh, you want to charge Maz? Only 3 Thunderwolves are going to get him. You can fight the bikers with the rest of these guys, while the rest of my units are now staging. I think Orc players are so used to being shot off the table that they kind of drop the ball, and we've seen this even on GT levels against other melee armies, because we end up being the softer ones to die in combat, as weakened units from other armies can usually still one-shot some of our moderately sized units, like a 10-man unit of Orc boys. So really taking an advantage of move blocking other armies, making them not optimally fight with their one-shot units into our more tanky units really does matter. And then trucks, of course, you can deliver tank shot to Thunderwolf Cavalry. That's fun. But mind you, these Space Marine armies are going to have a reliable anti-tank. So any trucks you have, make sure those boys are dropping out of line of sight. That way they can stage in that terrain and not be charged by the Thunderwolf Cavalry, hopefully, right? Last but not least, fight and death and grenade strat. You not always preach grenade strat. Mind you, it's everywhere all over the Orc index, right? Everywhere you look, Squighog Boys, bikers, whatever you can see. And if you read the word clearly, you can still use the grenade strat even if you advance. So keep that in mind. Really good when you're trying to use maybe like a Beast Snagga Boy unit. Well, Beast Snagga Boys are the on foot or the one unit that don't have grenades, but a unit near them can use grenades, and then Beast Snagga Boys can run them thereafter. And then fight and death, guys. I'm telling you, when you're fighting other melee armies, the fact that we get reliable fight and death, and some armies don't, Space Marines sometimes do, right? But in this case, it's not the same. Orcs love that, especially with something like a unit of Knobs or Squighog Boys. You end up getting amazing trades that armies cannot recover from if you do it at the right time. It just comes up to you as an Orc player to be very efficient with your CP management and not be thirsty to use it too early, okay? Because mind you, I've already named several strats. It's up to you as a general to do proper generalship with these strats.
Yeah, and, just 2 key points that you hit on when you were going through this. Those mortal wounds, Thunderwolf Cavalry do not have any defense versus mortal wounds.
Ooh, none at all?
None at all.
What about the oh no, they
there
can't
is
go
no
with them.
chaplain on Thunderwolf Cavalry.
Oh my gosh, they really don't. I didn't know that.
Very useful. Definitely use that. And then the other thing is going to be very important depending on what terrain style you're playing on, is your placement of your units. Because like you said, a lot of times that Space Wolves player is not going to be able to get all their models in combat because of those large bases. So you can really minimize how many Thunderwolves are actually attacking in that fight phase.
Yeah, guys. Remember, people really want to use that against us with our Squighog Boys. Optimize that against them as well. Oh, whoop. I jumped ahead, right?
No,
right here. Sorry. And they went over that. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, the combinations we wanted to talk about.
All right.
Some of the Space Wolf combinations with their characters, because at first you look at the Thunderwolf Cavalry and you go, that's not a scary profile into my Squighog Boys. That's not a scary profile into Gaz or Mazrog. Well, let David explain.
All right. So first up, we got Canis Wolfborn. He's a named character captain. And the biggest thing he brings is going to be sustain hits 1 for all melee profiles. So
acting like Orc boys.
Yeah. So that's, I think 28 attacks with the guys on top, then 18 more attacks with the mounts, all against sustain hit 1 on top of his 8 attacks. And he has twin linked claws at strength 5 -2 damage.
Ooh.
And remember, on the charge, all that is +1 damage. So he becomes 3 damage.
Oh,
everything else becomes 2 damage.
Goodness.
Then he also has he also does mortal wounds on the charge. So he has a built-in rule where on a 2 to 3, he does the 3 mortal wounds. Well, let me clarify. He has to be in engagement range.
Okay.
Then you roll a d6. On a 4 to 5 is D or flat 3 mortal wounds, and on a 6 is D3 plus 3 mortal wounds.
Okay.
Very cheap option at 75 points, so you're probably going to see it on a lot of lists.
Oh, that's super dirt cheap, man.
Right. Then you got the other captain, Harold Deathwolf. What he brings is devastating wounds only on the charge and only for the mounts themselves.
Okay. But that's very necessary for that army.
Right.
They need the dev wounds, to be honest, with
And
their
that'll
weird
be
strength.
2 damage dev wounds on the charge, because this all gets triggered on the charge.
Yes.
Then the big wolf lord himself, the
Logan.
chapter master.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the biggest reason you're going to see him on the list is he gives a once per turn reroll charges and reroll all hits in melee.
And he's is it an aura or is he attached to a unit?
It's once per game. Everyone on the battlefield gets
it. He gets a baby wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this is going to be more of a flavor option because, like we saw, Lance, this version of Lance gives you reroll charges.
Yeah.
And rerolling hits, depending on how many units you really plan on getting in. And he's 180 points, so that's more of a flex option.
Sure.
And I'm going to hit one of the chats here on the question covering this next. The Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf Cav. So all captains give you the free strat.
Okay.
And now with the new rule, it's a battle tech. It only affects battle tactics. So like Christian is bringing up here, that Lance can be free for a turn.
Oh, okay. And you can activate it twice.
Yeah, and you can activate it twice.
Ooh, there we go.
As well as the defensive one of
your reactive -1 to hit, -1 to
the
wound.
-1 to hit, -1 to wound. Then they could also still use armor contempt on another unit, depending how much shooting you have on your list.
Yeah. I don't think most orc lists are going to have that much shooting, but yes, still important that you bring that up. Still important.
Then one last thing with the Wolf Lord, he gets +1 advance and +1 to charge. Okay. So just a little extra movement. And then another popular character you'll see, this is what usually brings the units to 8-mans, is the Wolfguard Battle Leader. And what he brings,
Wolfguard Battle Leader,
is sustained hit or lethal hits.
Okay.
So it'll help them hit those higher toughness units.
Yes. And they have the volume where it actually does matter. I would say the dice rolls, obviously, because a lot of these rules are on the charge, on 6s, such like that. Really pay attention as an orc player that these abilities are activating on charges. Even some of the strats are being declared in the charge phase. You as a player need to keep that as well. That way you keep your opponent on his P's and Q's. Make sure you're not getting janked here. That's why we bring up their rules. All in all, though, that's actually good for us because we are looking to countercharge them and or just fight in death. So that's why it's important that you bring that. But that reactive strat makes this all very, very interesting as a matchup as a whole. My goodness, right?
Right. And this matchup, movement and distance management is going to be key.
Yeah. So how do you see this matchup when you're looking at as a Space Wolf player? How many Thunderwolf cavalry, I would say, until you actually feel confident that you can take down a proper wall, which of course comes with maybe some Squig Hog Boys, maybe a Maz. You know, a lot of this is looking like you're hoping that you do take the Space Wolf characters and then hoping that you do roll enough 6s in their abilities. Is that enough?
So with this detachment, personally, I would take 3 6-man units of Thunderwolf Cavs, and then plugged 1 to 2 characters in each unit. And what I'm trying to do here is just do damage in waves. So like I touched on Canis Wolfborn, being able to do mortal wounds. The Thunderwolf Cavs themselves also have the grenade keyword. So that'd be something I'd try to combo just to kind of chip away at the tougher units, because even with these buffs and some of them being situationally on the charge, nothing's really reliable. You're just kind of hoping it gets through. Luckily, it's Orks, so -1 AP is efficient enough. But yeah, it's just really about doing damage in waves, relying on your T6, 4 wounds, 4 up invul, and trying to survive. And like you mentioned earlier, even 1, 2 Thunderwolf Cavs, that's still a skirmishing unit. Those are still annoying and still can cause problems later in the games.
Yes. But the reactive movement strat is not a tactic. That means they cannot use that twice in a turn.
No.
And that's very important for us. It means you're only going to get it once. So when you're stage in multiple areas, my boys, my lads. This might be the case where you are usually scared to maybe put Miles forward because he's so expensive, but it is going to get the best bait out of maybe a whole Thunderwolf cavalry unit. I would just say make sure they're bikers or something. Me and a Stormboy unit, if you're bringing 3, you can use Stormboy units to actually get in the way as well. People forget that. They usually just think I'm going to put them off the table. in a matchup like this, and in my opinion, against other melee armies, yes, still having one, sometimes two in reserve is good. But if you can get a Stormboy unit on the table, they actually become an interesting move blocker unit. And I think people forget that as well because they are cavalry. So that's good too.
Right. Yeah, they'll have a lot of value starting on the table as well, because I know the one enhancement to count as a round earlier coming from reserves isn't the most popular choice, but you're going to see some extra points in that one being brought a few times, because what I do like about it is you're talking about 18 Thunderwolf trying to deploy 18 of them. So putting one in reserve just to prevent clogging yourself in your own lanes and maybe getting ahead and getting an objective early. Also, one character we did not talk about that we forgot to put on here is the lieutenant with combi weapons.
Of course.
So that'll combo with this strategy I'm referring to. Is you pick an objective in the first round and you get to reroll wound rolls 1. Okay. So with that unit you put in reserves, if you get first turn, you can put them down right on the objective and just kind of hope you hold whatever they try to bring.
Now, you know what else I think is interesting about that you said put one unit into reserve is that most of the time people, other gunline armies will say, maybe not orcs exactly, maybe a KG orc player might be scared too, but they'll be sitting too far back because they know you can cover so much distance. So they're going to be measuring your optimal lane. They might end up giving you that space themselves out of sheer fear for those Thunderwolf to make it on the table. That's what's crazy about that too. Right. Sometimes armies are too elite and too shooty to even box you out. And that's where orcs can actually do that. That's where a Storm Boy unit or maybe something like a infiltrating unit, like an individual Snikra, or if you like to play commandos, to have a unit of Wartsnaga and the Grots kind of run up and get in the way could be interesting as well. We've seen that at top tables work too. For that reason, is that if you know a lot of people already, they'll say you took this into your tournament list, you already have him on the table. You want him to get up that table to understand, oh, you can charge as trash, but I'm still keeping you further on your side of the table, and I'm unable to stage. So as an orc player, usually you think about that. Maybe Maz is coming in, maybe Gaz is coming in for the same reason. We know that we're running up the table and people are staying back and waiting. That's how the Spaceful player is going to be thinking too. So if you think you're a KG git and he decides to put one in reserve, you gave him all that space. Now that Thunderwolf cavalry unit is now leap padding on your weak flank because you decided to give too much ground as a scary git, and they ingressed and started leap padding into your weaker, softer units. And that's why it's interesting that brought that up too. David brought that up because, David does play Space Wolves. That's his first and primary army. So he's thinking about it as, how do I get into stuck in combat just like an orc would, or against other melee armies. In our meta, we actually do have, in our metas and people I play with most personally, a lot of them are melee armies. So that's the benefit that we actually get, and not so many gunline armies. So how do you see this as a matchup, as like I said, as I was trying to say, as a Space Wolf player or a Space Marine player, until you feel confident going to orcs? Because to be honest, I'm not exactly worried about them because the current orc archetype of many Squig Hog boys and such knobs are actually moderately successful into most of these units, especially when you're considering fighting in death. Are you confident as a Space Wolf player that you can take them out, or do you have to redline on maximum Thunderwolf cavalry before you feel like you're confident?
So I would say in this matchup, I might even opt to take some whirlwinds, where just to help out with the maneuvering around the battlefield. But overall, with the volume of attack that orcs usually bring, they're gonna chew through those 4-up invuls.
Exactly.
And I think in a battle of attrition, orcs just always take that one. So
something like knobs fighting in death with flat 2 damage.
That's a huge
very annoying for them. So is it difficult? Yes. But how many people actually own 18 Thunderwolf cavalry, right? When you're going into maybe a less competitive version of this list, you're going to look for their scoring units, and you're going to look to glass them with your killing units, and understand that even if they get a charge on you because they popped your truck or whatever it may be, always think ahead before you pop that free I want to use this strat to use grenades. Make sure you think ahead of time and go, if I use this and I use Unbridled Carnage and I have to possibly automatically pass morale because I need these OC points, can I still fight in death? You need to think like that as a player when you're considering fighting in death. You need to think multiple phases ahead. That way you're not sitting there like, oh man, I wish I had my 2 CP to fight in death, because that could just end the game right there.
Right.
He popped your truck, your knobs got out, you didn't fight in death, gets game. Now that unit's full charge the rest of the game. It traded out a 300-point unit. They're happy. That's why fight in death is so important. And I just need to preach that to new players, because a lot of the time new players do not have great CP management. They're CP rolling everything. They're too excited. They're trying to keep Miles alive too much. Sometimes just let Miles go. I understand it sucks, but there's been several games and even high-level players where they lose Miles kind of early, but they've baited so much of the enemy army that they're okay. And our advantage is our staging potential, moving through terrain, fighting in death. Their advantage is they have a reliable gun line, and they can actually get the initiative on us, which is something that usually gives us trouble when we fight into other melee armies like World Eaters, right? So keep those in mind too. So is there anything else? Because we hit the 30-minute mark.
Before we just, I guess one other thing, a popular option too for these lists is to bring the Callous Assassin.
Okay, yeah.
So, you know, they can make Unbridled Carnage cost 1 CP more the next time you use it. And you'll see that a lot, especially for the meta overall, because it hurts a lot of armies with armor, like another Space Marine wanting to use Armor Contempt. Okay. You don't want them just be able to spam that. Same thing with Unbridled Carnage. You just don't want to see them spam that. So that'll definitely be on a list. Also helps with screening, which is would be kind of hard with this list, because most of your list wants to go forward.
Yeah. And I think more and more stuff like infiltration unit and even our own scout units might become more into the forefront. We've seen people use Snick Route. We've seen people use Wart Snagga. Sometimes us running all our Squig Hog Boys runs into the same issue that this list is running into, right? So all in all, is this going to be one of our predators? No, not necessarily. Not a lot of people are running our own enough Thunderwolf cavalry to scare us all the time. Will you find this list sometimes? Yes. You're probably playing at a GT level anyways. As for casual players, it's always good to dissect a Space Marine army and understand what's for scoring and what's for killing. What am I trading and what am I hunting? This list is something like that, where they want to get stuck in with combat with you. That means you don't even have to hunt or kill units. They're coming right to you. It comes more down to your movement and your placement and your CP management. Overall, this isn't one of our hardest matchups, but it is a challenging matchup.
Yeah, and one thing you always preach is controlling the rate of attrition. Usually you think of that as offensive. You want to control your rate of attrition. But with the move block shenanigans, the big bases of the Thunderwolf calves, the terrain being helped to your benefit, you actually can control their rate of attrition. And you get to counter in and control more of the combat engagements. So that'll be what's key in this matchup too.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we're going to go over some chats real quick, and we're going to talk about our upcoming news and successful things. So let's get stuck in with the community you gets. Let's see what's going on with the proper whoa from Wicked Joe. Let's go. Whoa, getting our Joes in, because our walls in, because we haven't walled that much. Let's go. That's good. Okay, let's see. Sorry, reading over the chats because we didn't look. Get our walls. What was this? I was going to go after War Boss because he came off in stock. Yo, you're thinking about it? I think that War Boss is actually a beautiful model. I own multiple of them. I still recommend you get one. Also, running multiple War Bosses, totally meta. You can run 2 with knobs. You can run 1 in a Orc Boy unit, in a truck. Don't sleep on owning multiple War Bosses. It's a proper wall if you might have multiple War Bosses you get. I own 3. And my multi-build option would be nice too, because they talk about him having a big chopper, but he usually doesn't. Here we go. Is a strat you need to keep in mind when you're fighting against the Stormlance Detachment, to be honest, guys. That's something that I think is the biggest thing of this, is the fact that they're going to reactive move to you is just the biggest thing to keep in mind, right? Now, what unit goes best in the Thunderwolf Cavalry? It's boring to say the Squig Hog Boys. Wow. I know that. I know some of you are like, why? Well, I can explain why. On the wall specifically, they are now strength 6, and then they get lance. So they'll be wounding you on 3s. And then their mounts will be strength 7. They'll be wounding them on 3s. So now, and for the most part, you have a knob on Smash a Squig with that unit. If you're talking about bricks, you're hitting on 2s at that point. So you're running in.
The mounts are strength 6?
The mounts are strength 6 base, and then on the wall, they become 7. I'm saying on the wall, this is the optimal unit. And then you're hitting them on 2s, probably popping on Unbridled Carnage. Mounts are hitting on 3s, wounding them, hitting on 3s, and then wounding on 3s with both profiles, straight damage 2, -1. Even if the Armor of Contempt, each fail save is just devastating, because for their Blade of Wounds, damage 2 is proper.
Right.
So
And then,
yes,
vice versa, them being T7 is with the strength 5. It's not, you're wounding on 5s.
yeah. So
you're
it
being
sucks for
forced to
them to
pop
fight
lands.
us, and then we can pop artist nails
Yes,
to make sure they're
exactly.
only wounding us on 6s. So
Mhm.
our cavalry versus their cavalry, they can get the initiative on some of our softer units, but then that's where you want to either fight in death. Of course, when you fall out of a truck, you can't immediately fight in death, but you should be staging to the point that you preemptively pre-measured that unit cannot fight that truck, and or you put a possible move like a grot unit, something like that, they can start getting in the way too. Always back yourself up with screens, and that's where Storm Boys and biker units come into play too. Right. I do think we have a fine matchup into this, but it does take skill, like most melee matchups do, to be honest. A lot of it is generalship. If you just run at each other, then you're just hoping dices, stuff like that. Anything can happen. But for reliable outcomes, the better general actually does matter. David in the house. Whoa!
Here we go.
Let's go. David made it back.
Glad to be back.
Might want a hint. Time to take more grots. More grot tanks, you're thinking, right? This strat gives, yep, double tactic. Thank you, Chris. Awesome. Always useful you get. Hey, David, nice to see you. Also had hello. Whoa! Another in membership. I love that get. Love that get. I wonder what's behind the blue curtain. Some of my shelves, with some of my terrain on it. Some of my books.
Sometimes your cat.
Sometimes my cat. My cat is very often sitting behind the curtain or trying to hang on to it. So that's what's behind it. I played against Stormlance. There you go. Christian knows he'd be fine in melee. Oop. Find death is the best too. It hurts other melee armies a lot, right? For sure. And I think people forget that because it requires SCP management.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time I hear from orc players that they're like, I'm starved for CP. I'm starved for CP. I understand that you are. But a lot of time when I play, I'm not dying for my CP because I usually have a great understanding of CP management. And as you become more of a veteran in the game, you understand that sometimes you just let that 4-up invuln ride. Sometimes you just let the dice go. You don't have to re-roll everything. A lot of the time I rarely play a game where I use my command point reroll strat, to be honest. I can't even think of one. But I do use grenades. Beast Boss and Squiggle scores at Dime Storm off. Take some as backups. I have been seeing people trying to bring them both again back, right? He is quite cheap. He's decent. It just depends on how you like to play orcs, really. But I think he's totally viable. There's no reason you won't take him. Yep. Oh, there you go. Tank shot. Thank Chris. Always bringing up. I love that. Always love when people like to double clarify rules. And speaking of, guys, we did it. We got to the 1K. Whoa! We did it. You get this, the true rise of the green tides. Thanks to you guys. You crazy gets that randomly wall in the algorithm, show up to the live streams, deal with us and my improper grammar and sometimes mispronunciations. But thank you. I appreciate it. We love y'all. And we have the raffle in play.
Yeah. So now it's active. Everyone that's a member as of now.
I see you.
Patreon on Patreon. You guys are all entered into the raffle where we're gonna raffle off the Snag a Stampede box. It's already on its way, so rest assured it's coming. And also just to clarify the rules, the top 2 donors will also get extra entries. The number 1 donor, thank you. The number 1 donor will get 5 extra entries, and then number 2 will get 3 extra entries. So help support us. Everything's going into the channel. We just want to be able to deliver better product towards you guys, and we're learning still, and we'll get better. So we appreciate the love, all the support from you guys. Hitting 1K feels really good.
And I read your comment, your comments and some of your discords, and I was at work or I didn't reply or whatever it may be. Sometimes I'm just like, wow, that's such nice things to say that I don't know how to take it, and it kind of takes me a moment to digest it. So I'll definitely reply to you, but just know it means a lot, and I don't think I can express it directly in a message sometimes, but doesn't mean I don't appreciate when you guys do, or that David doesn't either. Especially because David doesn't always get to see what you guys say directly on Discord. And I love that you guys tell me, you're winning games and talking to each other. All that stuff's a big deal. Giving me ideas, validating my ideas, just stuff like that. And that's what the community is about. We want to come with more entertainment as well, right? We want to come with possible bat reps, like stuff talking about lore. This isn't all about a competitive community or competitive games. It's not all about just getting the win, right? It's really about the experience, making that there's more orc players than there ever were before, that they have a place to go and learn how to get and stuck in with the green tide, learn how to stay stuck in with the orc community, because it is such a niche faction to play. We're playing Warhammer 40K, where shooting is the most prevalent with the faction that hates to shoot. Period. Right? Other factions, so yeah, we don't like to shoot. Yeah, but you can gain allies that can shoot for you. Right? We literally don't. We just go in there with them gits in the DACA, we make it rain, and that's how we like it. So the community is here for you guys and any new upcoming orc players. So we want to enhance, we want to get better. Always tell us what you want to see and become improved, because we are not limited to just try hard tactics. It's about from the lore to the community to how you want to play to your personal experience sometimes, or even mine. So we love y'all and we appreciate it. And wherever you are, by the way, remember it's international. And we want to say, Ronin Dust. Whoa! Another gig got them membership, it looks like. All right, let's go. All right. I mean, you guys have pretty decent odds, in my opinion, right? I mean, we're at like 40 now, about 40 people. So, I mean, right? And then the top subscriber has a good chance too. So that's going to be pretty good. I love to see it, right? Let's get say. If you don't play orcs, you play gits, right? That's true. I love that. So we appreciate y'all. We'll be back with more orc challenging matchups. Trust me, the presentations are going to get better. You can let us know how you want them to be better. Maybe we can highlight some more deets. Let me know in the Discord. Always hit me with the DM if you want me to see it, or add us if you want us to see it. Because we've been busy and I don't like to take over Discord necessarily. I like to read what you guys say. Sometimes I don't see unless you at me. Right. So always do that.
Yeah, we're here for you guys. So your feedback is very valuable. It gives us a better idea of what to do, what you guys want to see. And yeah, thanks for getting us this far. And we got a lot more to go.
We got to learn TTS. We got to learn how to do vlogs for when we go to tournaments like Adepticon, right?
Because Adepticon will be the first event.
Adepticon's in our backyard, so we'll be doing vlog for that. Better shorts, stuff like Stomping Grounds with the better video, and now we have a nice dice tray. So much stuff. This is really just a tip, and that's also what caught us off guard. Is we were not expecting to hit this so quickly, and we're like, dang, we need better quality because we were really looking for more quality already. And you guys are like, you guys are doing great. And we're like, but we can be the greatest wall of all time. So that's what we're looking to do. And that's thanks to you. It really is. All individually, whoever's even still here or sees this later in our rants. We love it. We appreciate you. We can feel it. And the WAAAGH energy is coursing through us at unseen levels. And I look forward to getting into it, RTT. Sign up for some events. Let's see what more stuff we can get stuck in. And you should too, because this is the top. The WAAAGH is right now peaking. Orks are playing at least in the top 3, right? We got to talk about that community.
In terms of wins.
Hit me back, Gits, because this is a conversation right now. This isn't, none of this was scripted. We're still in here with you guys. We'll just get off when you guys stop talking back to us. But Orks are in a great spot. If you're worried about nerfs, though, I've been seeing some of you guys talk about, I'm worried about my nerfs, stuff like that. Yes, your Beast Snagga boys might be taking somewhat of a hit. Will they still be viable? Of course, but people might not be taking 18. Just like when the Beast Boss is very viable, but people stop taking 3. Now they take 2, right? That's what we mean by a nerf. It's not that you're going to get nerfed into the dust. Someone like Maz might, to be honest. But don't be discouraged if he is, because the Beast Boss and Squigosaur is still pretty awesome. Another thing is knobs and flash gits were already cheaper and viable prior to the points increase, guys. So even if they get a slight increase, still totally viable. Okay. So don't be discouraged as the orc community. And we've been seeing other different units coming up, like grot tanks that are sleeper units that are great. Death Killer Wartrike with the 4-up Feel No Pains, another sleeper durable unit that people sometimes don't play. The trifecta of the Death Killer Wartrike Feel No Pain with the Beast Boss on Squigosaur with Mazrog. That's like the cheapest way to get so much 4-up Feel No Pains and thickness. So guys, don't ever be discouraged of playing orcs just because of that. And you might see something like a kill rig go down in points again. Right? Because stuff like that. We've seen GWs rewarding the less popular units because of that. If a battle wagon goes down even more, if trucks go up and battle wagons go down, double battle wagons with double bricks of boys with gas running up the middle. What's up? Whoa! You know what I'm saying? I don't even care. That's actually that's already almost a viable list in most ways. Can we get a David Wednesday show? You want David to show up for the stats? You got to tell him. That's up to him. You might do. He does the editing, so it's usually he's working on editing stuff. But I mean, you declared him. You know, he's a member, dude. Yeah, remember asking for you. What's up, Ronan? Battle wagons are sick, right? Battle wagons are legit my favorite unit in Orks. I've said that in my other videos. If you look at like literally one of our first videos that showed up, and people are like, "Why do you like battle wagons so much?" I don't know if I want to go on a rant on that right now. I will if you guys say so, but battle wagons are actually my favorite, and I have a reason for that.
Yeah, no. To follow up on the fighting fedora, you know, me and Eddie operate where our we try to optimize our strengths, and that's why Eddie's mainly on content, and I'll try to do all the supportive things. I think that's what's really allowed us to push out this much content and grow so quickly, and that's what's going to continue to help us improve what we deliver to you guys. So yeah, I could definitely show up on Wednesday streams. I do miss showing up on those, but like I said, we try to push so much out there. Like I don't know, I try to maintain this insane pace.
But. Yeah, David's definitely trying to maintain the insane pace, and then that's why I think if anything, I should do more streams. If anything, if I'm talking to you guys, just the few dozen you gets that are still here, I think I need to do another third stream sometimes. Like the hobby one has been delayed. I need to get stuck in there because those are actually super fun. And the streams are the fun part, guys. It's the preparation and the editing and the voiceovers of stuff that we've, recorded is the more difficult, challenging part that we just weren't used to. Right. You know, and that's something that we'll get better at. And so imagine how much quicker those will get out. We did record like a bat rep and it was not optimal. It's okay, but we just had to at least attempt, and we're not going to put that out, but we're going to re-record. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's a learning process.
You read it.
Let's let Eddie do the behind the curtain and David solo the show.
Dang. All right, we're gonna get an edited video of me. It's gonna be the ugliest edit of all time.
We're gonna lose like 500 subscribers.
For sure. Most of the edits would just be me wawing. I won't know what to do, Those would be random edits of Orks and then the Grats and people getting crumped. Nothing to do with what David's talking about. I just got lost, so that'd be funny, but
maybe that'll get us 500 subscribers alone.
Yeah, right.
That's what they want.
And then we have the optimal, the meta, the all original Death Copter spam. 18 Death Copters. Whoa, let's go. That's totally, Happy Crumper that said that's meta, but you heard it here first. All right, I'm putting that. Yeah. All right. Happy Crumper, cool guy. He put out a video of Orks, Death Copters being meta. How about you tell him to run 18?
Yeah, let's see it.
Let's go. It started here, but I mean, he might have 18. I don't own 18 yet. Don't own 18 yet. Right. But that's hilarious. I love that that's such a meme in our community right now, to be honest. And it started here, that 18 Death Copters. So if you guys ever go anywhere else, make sure you start yelling 18 Death Copters on other pages, because that would be hilarious.
Yeah, no, another thing on that, I wouldn't be too worried about nerfs, because I don't see anything obviously abusive right now with the Ork list. And they're not dominating tournaments right now like you see Voltan now doing, or Aldari has been doing, or even CSM does at times. It's really been matchup dependent and general dependent. So I'm thinking the nerfs are going to be very minor.
Yeah, I mean, something we'll talk about in the videos that are upcoming, you guys want us to talk about too, are the World's Cup that's going on, where a bunch of the optimal players are playing. But in that regard, only 3 players took Orks.
Right.
So like that's going to put it on GW's radar as well. As if people are talking about longevity through multiple games into the most optimal shooting armies and such like that, people aren't really relying on Orks for that, right? You really, like we talk about a lot, matchups, terrain, all that stuff plays into factor when you're talking about top table Orks. When you're talking about casual play Orks with less experienced players, they can easily get overrun, not understand the fighting phase, not understand how much pressure Orks have, not understand the board control. But when you start understanding the top table of play, where they have enough transport, movement shenanigans, shooting shenanigans, to where they can piecemeal Orks and do combined arms, as in they can shoot us and fight us, as well as piecemeal us, maybe like Leagues of Voltan does right now, maybe like some versions of Space Marines can do to us right now. Those are the armies that are actually hard for us, and then those are actually the most competitive armies sometimes as well. Right. So it means a lot, but whoa, but I'm not worried about Orks, to be honest. I'm really not. And sitting at number, we'll say 3 at the casual RTT level, I think on the top table competitive GT level, we're like number 5, to be honest. You guys can go back and forth with me, anybody can, but I think the cup things kind of show that as well.
Right. Yeah, with the cup thing, those are the best players trying to optimize the best data sheets and give themselves the best chance to win.
Mm-hmm. So, over like at least 5 rounds or more, right? So that's what people don't understand about Orks when they just look at the data about how Orks are winning at RTTs, how we have so many winning events. It's really like, that's why at this channel, one of the first things I was like, guys, if we talk about matchups, winning lists, I want to look at all their matchups. Yeah. I want to look at their matchups and their list, because that's actually the context and the tail of the tape, as you know, if you watch fighting, right? So it is good. Like, Orks are great, and it's good that we're in a good spot where the meta respects us. But I'm actually kind of happy that the World Cups are reflecting what we like to talk about here, that Orks are great, but when you're talking about longevity, you need a bit of luck, a little bit of the right matchups on terrain, and understanding that shooting is actually the pervasive way of winning top tables in 40K. So when you see guys that run up with them and win with Orks, that's a big deal. But also, we got to see what they fought into. That's why I enjoy our Wednesday streams a lot.
Exactly.
It gives a lot of context sometimes to like, ooh, what happened here? That's why I appreciated Tarzan a lot last Wednesday. Too many walls. Let's get for the revolution. Okay, we'll do a grot wall. Wall! That's a grot wall for the revolution. For the revolution! Like that, 18 Def Cops will fly into a Adepticon. Whoa. Who?
Yeah, I'd love to see
that. You, Wicked Joe? Because I know some of you gits are going to show up at Adepticon, and I'll be there with this shirt, with this headband. All right. And hopefully I'll put on a couple pounds of Ork boy muscle from all the Ork energy that you guys are giving us. You know what I'm saying? Because Orks get bigger, the more WAAAGH energy. So I got to get bigger. Boy, I got back to the gym more. So yeah, that'll be cool if you guys. Yeah. Adepticon will be sick, with the community and such. You guys.
Yeah, exactly.
My goodness.
I'd be very excited to meet you guys in person. Just hang out and have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. But what about playing? Right? Do we want to play? And that's something we should keep in mind too. We're going to play because we want to do vlogs. Let us know what you guys think about that too. Would you even care if David came to an RTT with me on a WAAAGH or a GT, whatever it is? Right now, it's a pretty stale, like, for GTs in our area, but it does pick up. We are in the Midwest, and there are a lot of great players out here. Shout out to Gary Frank, hosting little events and such. Help me get some practice in.
Yeah, let me know what you guys think about that, because I don't personally play Orks, so you'd be seeing some Space Wolves on the table.
Yeah, but for me, like, if David takes pictures of it or whatever and interviews me when I'm at an event, do you guys even care for that? That seems like a little niche and a little, maybe that'd be better for like a Patreon or something, people behind the scenes. That'd be cool.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Let us know, because
as for main content,
we thought about doing that.
Yeah, for main content, we want to know what's really pervasive, what you guys really like. Sorry, would you guys like to see more bat reps, more tactics, more community stuff, maybe a 30% increase on all of those, and then a little bit more shorts? We could do that too. That's kind of where I'm feeling. 30% increase across the board on all those things, right?
Yeah, let's just hang out every day, guys.
Every day. My family lives 30 away from Schaumburg. Free board, you gets. Yeah, we live about that far from Schaumburg too. So that'll be cool. We'll have a bunch of space, and we got our players. You know what I'm saying? We got our own local players and our own people that we love that know about the community. Is great. So David doesn't play Orks. Yeah, David is not the premier Ork player. That's me always playing.
The wall boss.
David, if you guys didn't know, is my cousin. And Space Wolves are his army, which is why he still knows a lot about combat and fighting Orks, because all we did was fight each other for the first year of it. So no, he doesn't play Orks anymore, really. I mean, he's for fun here and there, but they're not his faction.
Yeah, since we started at the same time, picking the same army, wouldn't have been all too interesting, especially because we just got into the hobby, not really knowing much.
And that's why, like he says, he does editing for the most part now and stuff like that, because really it's me mostly playing. Obviously, he knows all the Ork rules. He knows exactly how they play because he's been playing them every edition multiple times a week, stuff like that as well.
Yeah, a lot of losing.
So yeah, Orks are awesome. So yeah, I love it, and I'm surprised. Are you guys? Are even surprised from that you guys didn't know David played, because we had talked about it several times.
Yeah, sorry guys.
I mean, he can play Orks. I mean, he plays Space Wolves. It's not like it's like he doesn't understand the combat phase and how he wants to get stuck in. He likes to fight. So, what is this? A Beaky edits? Yeah. Ooh, we calling you a Beaky.
It's all right. It's all right.
You guys, it's funny you guys are giving him a hard time. I don't mind. It's funny. But
It's all good.
yeah,
All
that's
love
good.
here.
Get him. He's a biggie. Crumble. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah,
I
but
still love to fight.
yeah, like we said though, I mean, hey guys, remember, orcs respect biggies that like to get in. That's the whole point. Orcs actually, when they see Space Marines, they get excited because they get stuck in combat, get stuck in fights with them. You know, orcs actually, if you look into listen to current orc lore, when they see a Space Marine, they don't feel hate or fear. They actually get excited. And they're like, hey, someone who's not going to run away. Let's go. So, like, that's how me and David are. David's my cousin. When he seen me, let's get stuck in. He fought another army that was getting stuck in. Makes total sense to me, you know. And green skin on green skin combat is cool too, but we have a large plethora of collections, which is going to come into play when we do bat reps. That's where David playing other armies actually matters too, and other guys too, right? A beaky edit. That's funny. I thought David always stayed behind the current of the video during these lives. What the heck? That's funny as heck. No, David is home usually during those. My cat's usually behind the scenes, right? You know, so or it's just a big war boss in the background just ready to chop at me if I say something wrong. Oh, Joel made it through. Whoa, Joel! They were getting on David because they found out he didn't play Orks primarily. Oh, well, someone got to get crumped. You know what I'm saying? Wall bosses. Whoa, I didn't read the bosses part. I covered it with my mouse. I'm gonna make a Space Wolf 10 boys and name it Dave.
That's awesome. I'd love to see a picture.
I would love if the community just started making little like Space Wolf models and naming them Dave. Just naming them David and crumping him like right. What's a proper wolf name? Wolf Lord Dave. Just like murdering him, you know what I'm saying? Just David, that'd be so funny, dude. If you do want to do one for a Christian as a world eater too, that'd be funny. I would love to see that. My goodness. Maybe do that as a prize. People, I'll send them in and then I send them a box.
Yeah, and at least from the Space Wolves perspective, some of the best stories are against orcs. So there is a history there. There is a good rivalry there.
Yeah, that's why it's like it's funny. I mean, we seen it as it was a perfect thing to have orcs versus Space Wolves as us being cousins who play constantly, going face to face constantly. It made us so we actually got really good at the combat phase very quickly compared to a lot of other newer players are usually getting used to the shooting phase. And the niche and 40K is actually the combat phase to make up extra movement, to steal objectives, to dissect characters now with precision being a factor. You can kill characters. Something I think important for Stormlance too that I should have said is sometimes killing the character might actually be the right choice.
Yes.
Going for like a duel, you know?
Right. Especially if you want to pick out Canis Wolfborn because he has no invul. I guess that's something else we should have mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. So a war boss might be able to on the wall just crump that kit. So and that would matter when they want to fall back. So fantastic. So is there anything else we want to say and cover with the gits?
One last thing I was gonna say though, what worked out really well with me also picking Space Wolves and you Orks was when we started 8th edition, towards the tail end of it, which is when we started, they had the Saga of the Beast box.
Yeah.
So that was an easy no-brainer for us to share and get and you know, also enjoy the Ragnar Gaz rivalry.
That's how we got those models too.
Yeah.
For sure. And oh man, I forgot I was in the same. My goodness, I just had a brain fart. Let me know in Discord, you guys, if you want one of these hobby streams directly. I need to see a head count here because you know that's another day and long hours putting it together, and that's okay. I don't mind at all. I just want to make sure you guys will like it and you know want to be there for it and such like that. So
right, yeah, let us know.
And what day maybe works too. Like you know, if you guys hate Sundays, I don't know if Sundays suck for streaming. I'm not really sure yet.
And with the holidays coming up, you know, maybe we could do something. You know, we don't have to go work our normal 50 hours.
Yeah. So let me know in Discord how you guys feel when you want a hobby stream, such like that. But we're gonna go ahead, get off here, get ready to do the raffle, get one of those boys in. Oh, he wants to know. You running Murder Fang?
Of course, I gotta run Murder.
Why is that?
Because he gets essentially free fight on death.
Bam.
Man. Yeah. And he hits hard.
He made it on when we were talking about the Iron Storm.
Yes, on the Iron Storm, he was there with Bjorn, which are two. That's another reason why I love Space Wolves, because of their named character dreadnoughts. It's
interesting how they're kind of the stronger versions in some ways of some of these detachments too, and you know it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right, you gits. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. we're gonna get out of here and do the raffle. Let's see who gets the biggie box or the big box.
Yeah, and to clarify, it's going to go to the end of the year. So December 31st, as long as you're a member, now that we've hit 1,000, from now until then, you're entered. You got a chance to win.
Oh, is that long? I don't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I need to pay attention to when the box comes. Whoa. You gotta get mine too.
Kind of correlated with Christmas kind of thing.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah, we could do Christmas. I think I forgot how I wrote the post exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in my mind, I had it till the end of the year.
All right, cool. All right, guys. One thing to keep in mind: don't cross our wall, because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!